I put the first few problems up, it seemed like during the quiz, y'all actually did really good on this part, but I just want to review. Some struggle. I had one person yesterday who answered A from the entire quiz and then took a nap. And I just got to figure out, okay, was that person really tired or did they just give up, okay? And again, not everybody's always very verbal, so I just need to have some feedback, so let's take a look. So how many significant figures do you think 75.02 millimeters has? 4. Very good. It sounds very confident. How do you know that this 0 counts? Excellent. And between 2 real numbers. Very good. Then your next measurement was 0.0049 grams. How many significant figures? Just 2. How come these zeros up here are not considered significant? They're placeholders. All right, let's try and put this measurement into scientific notation. What would that be?
0.49 times 10 to the negative 2. Right, 4.9 times 10 to the negative 2.
All right, thank you, Chloe. So she says let's take the decimal and let's move it until after the 4. And when you do that, you move it 3 times. You're moving it to the right. Since you're moving it to the right, your exponent is going to be negative. And then make sure you put down your unit because it's a measurement. People like to forget about that. But I've noticed some people, they will move around that decimal like crazy, but they don't really know where to put it. So that number that goes in front of the decimal, what do y'all remember? What were the rules for that? It can be equal to 1, Sam is saying, or it can be greater. Or what else? It has to be smaller than 10. So if he said virtually that number in front of the decimal could be any number such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that may help you. So if she moves the decimal until behind the 4, then 4 is one of these numbers. If she would have put the decimal in front of the 4, 0.4 is less than 1. That wouldn't suffice. And if she would have put the decimal after the 9, 49 is bigger than 10, that would have not worked either since your number has to be less than 10. Are y'all following me a little bit on that one? Okay. And does that make sense? You want to come up here and show me? Cool. Y'all want me to turn the air on? I have like serious sinus pressure today and fluid on my ears, so I feel like an elephant. You know this commercial? Can you head to this thing? If I don't hear you, don't take any offense. It's really taking and show me. That's not funny, Elena's getting old.
I'm not laughing at you.
Sorry. Like, ah. Yes. No, you need to pay attention.
I told you.
All right, you want to rewrite this over there and we work it together?
I'll do it.
Are you doing the next one? Oh, I thought you had a question on that problem.
I can show you where I want to move this one. Like
Okay.
when this one move this way,
Uh-huh.
so it will be like it's 3 significant figures and it'll be 1.89 times 10 negative 1.
Positive, because you're moving to the left.
Yeah.
Mhm. But that's not what they're asking you, but that's perfectly correct. We're still on number 1. We're just asking how many significant figures your measurement has.
So it'll be 3 on this one.
Okay, hold up. Turn around, because we're trying to videotape this for the periods to come. Smile. Say, hey, I'm in. All right, so he's saying 18.90 milliliters. He says that measurement has 3 significant figures. What do y'all think?
Just 4.
Why do y'all think it has 4?
Because the 0 counts, so it's to the right.
Very good. So they're saying the 0 has to count because it's after the decimal. In front of the decimal, you get real numbers. So that's why this is significant. It is confusing.
Like, I thought is it in between one that's when it counts.
It also counts then. There are more incidences when it can count. So it counts if it's in between 2 real numbers, and it counts if it's after a real number after a decimal. See, these zeros didn't count because they were after a 0 after a decimal.
Okay.
But if this would have been like an 8, then those zeros would have counted.
Okay.
Does that make sense a little bit?
So is it after?
So it counts because it's after a real number after a decimal.
Okay. So wait, is it one? So say this decimal right here, so just 1.890. The 0 1 count. It will count.
Because it's 1 point.
Like it's this one here, in the, like
Okay, just write it. Just write it over here, because that's good. That may be something the next period can benefit. So just put your measurement up here and we'll talk.
Say it was like this, it'd be real.
Okay. Are there zeros here or not?
No.
Okay. So turn around so they can see. So this midget, right, and I'm just going to make it big real quick. It's fine. So he's saying, what if you had 1,890? And that number, how many significant figures would you have? Just 3. Okay, now Lachey's showing over her fingers. Very good. If you have just 3, because the 0 does not come after a decimal. Now there is a decimal right here, but it's imaginary. So if you would have said, hey, it's 0.00 or something like that, then those zeros would have counted, because it's after the decimal.
Okay.
Does that make sense a little bit? So if there's no decimal, your zero's not going to count.
Okay.
That may be the easiest way to remember. Good question. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
So, like, the zeros after their count, why doesn't it count on B?
Perfect. Because the number in front of your decimal is a 0. So if you have a 0 point something something, it's not going to count because this is a 0. If this would have been an 8 or a real number, then those zeros would have counted. So they don't count right here because they're all 0, 0, 0. The number in front of the decimal has to be a real number for those zeros to count. We call those placeholders because you could rewrite this as 4.9 times 10 to the negative 3 grams.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why they use scientific notation, because I know you're trying. And guys, remember, this is why people quit chemistry in college. I'm not saying this is easy by any means. But when your numbers get really small because they're 0.00000, then you simply use scientific notation to better show what's actually important, what's actually insignificant. Because those zeros are just placeholders to show you how small your measurement actually is. Yes? That wouldn't count because this is a 0. This is not a real number. Now, if this would have been a 1, how many significant figures would you have? 3. If this would have been a 0, and yeah, I guess we already have that problem right there. All right, y'all doing good. Y'all are thinking. Dolphin.
Why does it have to be after a decimal? Like, why? If it's still 11, why doesn't it still count?
They just say it's a placeholder and it's insignificant because they say these big numbers you can express in scientific notation to better show what's important. Am I saying that right? I don't think I'm answering his question. Yes.
In math, like those are kind of important, like when you have algebra. But like if you have .9000 math, those zeros don't mean anything.
Yeah.
That's like I don't.
It counts for something up there, doesn't it?
Okay. Tell me your example. You're saying it's point.
Like .009. Like in math,
They're
those
significant
zeros count, but
because they're trying to show you how small something is.
yeah.
Well, in chemistry, they're saying they do not count because I don't have a real number right here. That's why you could say this is just very small, and to indicate how small it is, you use a negative exponent. And depending on how small that negative exponent is, you know how small that measurement actually was. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So that would just be one significant figure.
Yes, it's only one significant figure, they're just placeholders. And they do that in science because sometimes you have these super duper tiny numbers in like picoseconds that you can express much quicker that way. Because all those zeros really just, they're placeholders, they say they don't have a meaning. And that goes the same way if you would have had 900,000. These are just placeholders. This is the same as 9 times 10 to the 5th power. They just,
It's like has to do with scientific.
yes, it all has to do with scientific notation. That's why I have y'all do it over and over. And it just shows you how they just, there to hold the spot to show you how big or how small something is, but it don't actually carry a true meaning.
Now it's like 9.00, those zeros would count.
Then they would count because then somebody took the time to give you all these decimal places that measured that accurately. So this would actually have 5 significant figures. Yes. Good job. Yes, Gracie.
Okay, so, like how ants have the zeros behind the back line?
Yes.
So would that 0 be significant significant if there was zeros behind it, since the zeros and behind it?
Yes, then it will be significant.
So it would become significant?
Yes, because of the decimal. Alright, how do you feel about A, B, and C? Do y'all see why this one has 4, this one has 2, and this one has 4 significant figures? You'll get the same thing that there's nothing else I can do but change out the numbers. You have learned the rules, we have talked about them, so the next quiz will be very similar, just with different numbers. And again, if you get this now, then by the time you get to college, it'll be more like a review versus what you're going through right now. Okay? Alright, 9,000 centimeters. We have kind of set the answer already by doing other examples. How many significant figures? Just one. Because those zeros are placeholders, you could say that it's 9 times 10 to the what power? Yep. Very good. I have exactly 12 test tubes. How many significant figures? 2. Now be careful. This is something I can count. Can I count how many test tubes? How many rulers I have?
Yes.
Anytime you can count something, it's also considered unlimited. Okay? So if you did the infinite sign, some of you did that, or some of you wrote unlimited, either way is fine. But anytime you can count something, it's also considered an unlimited number of significant figures because it's exact. I have exactly 24 students in front of me. I don't have 24 3/4. I can't have that. Does that make sense a little bit? Alright, and then F, 1.50 times 10 to the 4th power, how many significant figures? 3, because the 0 counts because of what? The decimal. The decimal makes the 0 count. So you have 3 there. Alright, so look at A, B, C, D, E, F. That's hopefully something you copied down because that was on your quiz. So if you hadn't, write that down, Sarah. Come on. Let's take some notes. And make sure you're good on that. I'm hot now. Are y'all hot now?